Chuck Norris, a name that echoes through Hollywood with a legacy of strength and discipline, stepped onto the Jimmy Kimmel live set to cheers and excitement. What everyone expected was a fun, light-hearted conversation, maybe a few classic jokes, a viral meme callback, and some promotional chat. But nobody anticipated the tension that would soon grip the studio. As the interview began, Jimmy led with his usual humor, poking fun in ways that seemed harmless at first. But then, things shifted. Kimmel pushed too far, touching on Chuck's personal beliefs and political views under the guise of comedy. Norris, ever composed, gave short answers, his smile fading. The atmosphere changed rapidly, and the audience, sensing the mood, quieted. What began as entertainment was now feeling like a live confrontation. Jimmy Kimmel, known for his sharp wit, assumed Chuck would laugh it off. But as he pushed further, referencing past statements and mocking his serious worldview, Chuck finally responded with calm, razor-sharp clarity. "If I'm here to be mocked, not respected, then we're not having a conversation." The audience was stunned. A few nervous chuckles echoed, but the tension was now undeniable. Kimmel tried to play it off with a sarcastic grin, but Chuck's stare didn't waver. He sat straight, focused, and delivered each word like a martial artist delivering a strike. "You brought me here under the pretense of respect," he added. "If that's not real, then neither is this interview." There was no anger, just icy resolve. Suddenly, the power dynamic on set had flipped. Jimmy attempted to steer things back into safe territory with a joke about Chuck Norris memes. But instead of laughing, Chuck leaned forward and said, "I'm not a meme. I'm a veteran, an actor, and a man who stands by what he believes. If you can't see past a joke, maybe you shouldn't be behind that desk." The air was thick with tension now. There was no applause, no laughter, just silence. The audience watched in real time as Chuck Norris dismantled the idea that celebrity interviews had to be shallow or one-sided. Jimmy, momentarily lost for words, blinked and looked toward the producers. But Chuck wasn't done. "You can't invite people on your show and try to humiliate them," he said plainly. "That's not comedy. That's cowardice." Kimmel still tried to recover, grasping at humor to soften the mood. But Chuck wasn't having it. "This isn't about being offended," he said. "It's about being disrespected." That line echoed throughout the studio. Some audience members nodded in support. Chuck didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His quiet, deliberate tone said more than yelling ever could. His posture was straight, his gaze unwavering. "I've spent my life standing up for what's right," he continued. "If you think I'll sit here while you mock that, you've got the wrong guest." Kimmel, clearly uncomfortable, tried to move on, but it was too late. The room had shifted and the interview had lost all sense of control. Backstage, producers scrambled. Should they cut to commercial? Should they end the segment? Kimmel hesitated, then chuckled nervously and said, "Well, this got a little real." Chuck, unfazed, calmly began unhooking his mic. The audience gasped. "I think we're done here," he said firmly, standing up. He nodded respectfully to the crowd and walked off stage. There was no storming out, no theatrics, just a confident exit. The silence in the room was louder than any applause could have been. Kimmel sat frozen, visibly rattled, unsure of what to say. But the internet knew exactly what had just happened, and within moments, the clip of Chuck leaving went viral. Social media exploded. Hashtags like "Chuck walks out" and "Norris vs. Kimmel" trended worldwide. Twitter lit up with reactions. "Chuck just ended Jimmy's career in 30 seconds. This wasn't a meltdown. It was a masterclass in self-respect." People across the political and entertainment spectrum began chiming in. Some accused Kimmel of baiting his guest, while others praised Chuck's restraint. What made the moment iconic was not the drama, but the dignity. He didn't yell, didn't slam the door. He simply walked away with calm conviction, and that left a greater impact than any viral punchline could. The backlash hit Kimmel hard. Viewers started questioning the tone of his show, especially his pattern of turning interviews into ambushes disguised as comedy. Meanwhile, Chuck issued a brief public statement. "Respect isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. I welcome debate, but I won't sit through ridicule." That one line was shared millions of times. News outlets picked up the story, and discussions began about the line between humor and humiliation. Even other celebrities voiced their support for Chuck, with one actor tweeting, "Legends don't need to shout, they just leave." In that moment, Chuck had sparked a conversation bigger than one awkward interview. Memes flooded the internet, but this time they honored Chuck's actions. One viral meme read, "Chuck doesn't do interviews. Interviews survive Chuck." Another showed him calmly walking away with the caption, "Disrespect detected, exiting stage." Influencers and podcasters analyzed the moment frame by frame, praising how Chuck maintained grace under fire. Others criticized Kimmel for crossing the line between edgy humor and personal attack. Whether you agreed with Chuck or not, one thing was clear: he had owned the moment on his terms, and that's what people respected. A few days later, Kimmel addressed the incident on air with a half-hearted explanation, calling it an unscripted moment. But it didn't land. The audience saw it for what it was, a guest who stood up for himself when the host went too far. The moment had already taken on a life of its own, becoming a case study in self-respect. Chuck didn't need a PR campaign. His silence and his walk-off were louder than any defense he could have made. He reminded people that you don't always have to fight back with words. Sometimes just walking away is the strongest response. In the weeks that followed, the moment lingered in public memory. Chuck Norris, already a pop culture icon, had proven once again why he's more than just a meme. He demonstrated that strength isn't always about fighting, it's about knowing when to stand your ground and when to step away. The world didn't just see a TV moment, they witnessed a man who refused to compromise his values for cheap laughs. Jimmy Kimmel may have kept his show, but Chuck kept something far more valuable: his dignity. And in today's world, that's what truly sets legends apart.